parts you should know, and some pretty unique language to describe them. Take the time to familiarize yourself with your board so you at least sound like you know what you're doing. Every snowboard has a nose and tail, also known as the tip and tail. The nose or tip of the board is the end of the board in front of your front foot. The tail is behind your back foot. The bottom of your board you put on the snow is called the base. It keeps wax stored in it and releases this wax to keep you gliding, even on the crummiest snow. Opposite the base is the top sheet. It has all the pretty graphics, and that's what your bindings attach to. Bindings are what keep your foot attached to your snowboard. The bottom of the binding is the base plate, with a disc to allow you to change the angles of your bindings. There are a few different styles of bindings, but they generally have two straps, an ankle strap, complete with buckle and ladder, as well as a toe strap or toe cap with a buckle and ladder. Bindings should also have a high back, which rests against your calf. High backs are adjustable and can make your board more responsive or more forgiving. Around the base of your board, there's a metal edge, used to dig into the snow and ice. Under your toes, it's called a toe edge. Any idea what it's called under your heels? Yep, it's a heel edge. Snowboards also have different shapes. If you look down the edge of your board, the hourglass shape is called the side cut. It's there to make turning and carving easier. And then there's the snowboard's camber, which is how the base sits on the snow. There's a variety of different types of camber, such as traditional camber, reverse or rocker camber, flat camber, and a seemingly endless variety of hybrids. This tutorial was filmed at Whistler Blackcomb. You're watching Duncan Mainland, and before you strap into your snowboard or even set up your bindings, you need to know if you're regular or goofy. This will determine which leg is your front and which is your back. Regular describes someone who's leading with their left leg. Goofy for someone leading with their right. If you do any other board sports like skateboarding, surfing, or kiteboarding, chances are you'll ride the same way. Generally, your more dominant leg will go in the back, so you can think of what leg you'd use to kick a soccer ball, or better yet, go and actually kick a soccer ball, or even a bit of snow. If you kick with your right leg, you might be regular. If you kick with your left, goofy. You can also try standing up straight with your eyes closed. Get a friend to gently push you forward. Try to remember which foot you put forward to keep balance. Chances are, that'll be your front foot. Try running across the snow and then stopping abruptly, like you would on hockey skates. The position you stopped in is a good indication of which position you should snowboard in. Pick one or two of these techniques and give it a try. The important thing is you pick a direction to start in and get moving. If you later realize you feel more comfortable the other way, it's easy to change. Most beginner rental boards are set up centered anyway and can be ridden goofy or regular, so you don't need to spend your entire day fumbling with cold screws. This tutorial was filmed at Whistler Blackcomb. You're watching Brain, and put your snowboard base down. You might want to keep a foot on it. Snowboards have a tendency to run away when left unattended. Start by strapping in your front foot. If you're regular, this will be your left foot. If you're goofy, you're right. Get all of your straps undone by lifting up on the tabs and the buckles and pulling out the ladders. Remove any snow that may have accumulated on your base plates by wiping it out with your glove. Otherwise, it just builds up throughout the day, making it difficult to get your foot in properly. Place your front foot into your bindings with your calf against the high back. Make sure to get your heel all the way back in the binding with your boot resting against the high back. It may take a bit of wiggling or even a bit of a tap from your fist. With your foot in the binding, slide the ladder into the buckle on your ankle strap and tighten it down with the ratchets. Not so tight that your foot's going to fall asleep, just tight enough that it's not wiggling around in your base plate. Do the same thing with your toe strap, sliding the ladder into the buckle and tightening down with the ratchets. At this point, you don't have to worry about strapping in your back leg. The first few steps to learning how to snowboard are done with your back leg free, so you're good to go. If you really want to get ahead of the game and just give things a go, you can strap in your back foot the same way you did the front. This tutorial has been filmed at Whistler Blackcomb. You're riding with Duncan Mainland and Nev Lapwood from Snowboard. It's your base of support, so you want to try and keep the majority of your weight stacked over your board to maintain balance. With your front foot strapped in, stand with your free foot on the board next to your back binding. A good place to start is a strong neutral position. knees flexed, back straight, head up, and hands over your nose and tail. This is a great base to start from. You need to be comfortable moving all over your snowboard. Try doing a few small hops. It'll start putting a bit of stress on your neutral position, forcing you to make small adjustments to keep balance. As you start moving on your snowboard, you're always going to be adjusting to stay balanced. Now try some squats, getting as low as you can. Think about using your ankles, knees, and hips while keeping your back straight. It's very common to bend at the waist to get lower, but all it does is move a ton of your weight over the snow, making it difficult to keep balance. Once you're comfortable moving up and down, try moving towards the front of your snowboard. See if you can grab your nose. Instead of just leaning over, which can be tough to balance, get low and use your ankles, knees, and hips to center yourself towards the nose of your board. Then grabbing the nose is much easier. Do the same thing towards the back and see if you can get a hand on your tail. When you start doing turns, you're going to be moving from your heel edge to toe edge and vice versa. So practice rocking on your heel edge, then toe edge. Push your knees towards the ground, pressing into the tongues of your boots to get onto your toe edge. Then slightly squatting down and flexing up on your toes to get onto your heel edge. If you lose balance at any point, you have your back leg free to swoop in and save the day. Don't segregate yourself to standing in just one spot. You have a whole snowboard to use and explore. So practice moving around in all kinds of different positions. Who knows what kind of funky shapes you'll end up in while you learn to ride. This tutorial has been filmed at Whistler Blackcomb. I'm Duncan. Skating is how you get around with your front foot strapped into your snowboard. It'll give you a feel for how the board moves, and it's necessary for using the chairlift and moving around on the flats. It's tough getting across flat terrain with both feet in, and you end up with wicked scooch leg. Skating on a snowboard is very similar to skating on a skateboard, leading with your front leg and pushing forward with your free back leg. Stand with your knees slightly bent and your head up, looking where you're going. You can even put your arms out for balance if you need to. You can push with your free foot behind or in front of your snowboard. So try both and see what feels best to you. But no Mongo pushing, please. You'll probably start by doing small little shuffles as you try to find balance, but try to develop this into big, long pushes. Once you get a bit of momentum up, put your free foot on your board up against your back binding and just glide along a little bit. This is a great chance to get used to how your board slides across the snow, so spend some time pushing around and getting comfortable. If you need to turn around, plant your free foot in the snow in front of or behind your board and pivot around it. Once you're comfortable gliding around, start playing with your edges. Lean slightly into your high backs or the tongue of your boots to put a little bit of pressure on your toe or heel edge. This bit of pressure will let the side cut of your board pull you to the right or to the left. If you're learning with a few friends, race each other, play tag, or set up an obstacle course to keep things a bit fun. Whether you're with a group or by yourself, put the time in and get comfortable skating. It's something you end up doing a lot, and it'll set you well on your way to learning to snowboard. This tutorial has been filmed at Whistler Blackcomb. You're watching too steep to skate up efficiently, and unstrapping your front foot to walk up is just a drag. In times like these, turn your board so it's across the fall line, and use your toe edge to climb up. The fall line is the most direct route down a slope. Imagine you rolled a ball down the mountain. It's the route the ball would take. If your snowboard isn't at 90 degrees to the fall line, you notice it wants to slide to one side or the other. Lift up your board and pivot it until it's 90 degrees and it's not trying to get away from you. Take a big step forward with your back foot, then step with your snowboard, digging your toe edge into the snow across the fall line. Your board feels a little heavy when you're learning to ride. Make sure you lift it up nice and high so the tail's not dragging in the snow. Keep repeating these steps until you're at the top, or as high as you're willing to go. You can use a similar technique to go down small hills you've deemed too steep to slide down with just one foot in. Pivot so you're facing down the slope, with your heel edge dug into the snow across the fall line. Start by stepping your board down the hill, digging the heel edge in across the fall line. Follow by bringing your free foot down just behind your snowboard. Repeat these steps until you're at the bottom, or at least a spot you're comfortable riding down from. This tutorial has been filmed at Whistler Blackcomb. I'm Duncan Mainland. From sometimes you'll need to go down hills with just one foot strapped into your snowboard. Getting off the chairlift is probably the most common one. It's important that you're able to ride and control speed and direction with just one foot strapped in. The first step is just doing straight lines down a small hill to get comfortable balancing on your snowboard as you slide down. Find a small slope, ideally ending with a long flat or slightly uphill runout, so you don't have to worry about stopping. Climb up a few meters to a point you feel comfortable dropping in straight from. Pivot your board so the nose is pointing straight down the fall line, but make sure to keep your free foot planted in the snow until you're ready to go. In one smooth movement, take your free foot and place it on top of your board against the back binding, and off you go. Try to stand with your knees flexed, back straight, head up, and hands over your nose and tail. Your board will generally go where your shoulders go. If your hands are hanging out on either side of your snowboard, it'll turn your shoulders, making your snowboard want to turn as well. Keep your shoulders aligned with your snowboard to stay in a straight line. Glide along until the hill brings you to a stop. It's common to want to lean back as you slide down the slope. This puts you onto your back foot, making it difficult to balance and keep control. Try to have your shoulders parallel with the slope to make it easier to keep equal weight on both feet. If you can't find a hill that runs out to flat or uphill, you'll have to stop yourself before you run into something. The easiest way to slow down and stop yourself is to drag your toe or heel in the snow. But make sure you keep part of your foot on the snowboard against your back binding. Otherwise, the splits become a pretty real scenario. Do a bunch of laps gliding down and experiment with how you stand on your board. Stand as tall as you can. Get as low as you can. Then try somewhere in between. Lean forwards. Lean backwards. Then try it centered. If you're feeling really good, you can even try a few small jumps as you glide along. This tutorial has been filmed at Whistler, which is hopefully covered in wax. It's not a surface that's going to wait long for you to do up your bindings. When you're ready to strap in your back foot, it's best to sit down on your butt with your snowboard in front of you. From here, it's easy to get your bindings done up, and it's a great way to catch a break when you need a rest. But getting up with both feet strapped in can be a bit of a challenge. As soon as you start to push on your board to stand up, it wants to slide out from underneath you. Just like the side slip, you need to keep your edge nice and high so you can get the most grip in the snow. If you start to push your hips into the air, it's hard to keep that edge high, making the board want to slide out from underneath you. Instead, scoot your butt close to your board and in one smooth movement, push up and forward. You can even grab onto your toe edge with one hand to keep your weight forward and edge up. Once you're standing, your board's probably going to want to start moving right away, so be ready to side slip as soon as you stand. When you're starting out, you have so many things to remember to do all at the same time. If you can get a friend to help you out for the first few times, it makes this process much easier. Try not to rely too much on your friends though. You're going to have to do this by yourself eventually. Even just a foot in the snow to keep your board from moving can go a long ways. Standing up on your toe edge is a lot easier, though not very efficient for doing up your bindings. Strap it on your heel edge, then extend one knee and bend the other. Put your hand underneath your bent knee and pull yourself over onto your toe edge. It's a lot easier to keep your edges high from the toe side, and it's a lot easier to stand up. But make sure to practice both sides because you don't want to be rolling around in the snow all day. This tutorial has been filmed at Whistler Blackcomb. You're watching Duncan Mainland and Nev Lapwood from Snowboard Addiction. How you control your speed when you're learning how to snowboard. Riding with your board across the fall line, digging your edge into the snow. Start on your heel edge with your board 90 degrees to the fall line. Get your butt close to the snowboard and prop yourself up with your hands. Start moving by pushing down on your toe edge evenly with both feet. Your edge works almost like a gas pedal. The more you push it down, the faster you go. As your board slides, step along with your hands like a crab to keep up with your board. If you push down the edge more with your right foot, the board will move to the right. If you push down more with your left foot, it'll move to the left. For now, we want to concentrate on even pressuring and getting the board to go straight down the fall line. The movements here are pretty small, so think more about how much pressure you're putting on your toe edge rather than how much you're moving it. Once you get into a smooth, even slide, give yourself a big push up and try it standing. Ideally, you want to have your knees bent, back straight, head up, and hands pointing to either side of the hill. By keeping your hands pointing to the sides, it'll keep your shoulders 90 degrees to the fall line, helping your board also stay 90 degrees to the fall line. It's easy to get into a stop and go routine, overcompensating as you start to lose control. Think of the movements more like a dimmer switch than an on-off switch, concentrating on small movements of your feet to keep the board sliding smooth. With the heel edge handled, it's time to tackle the toe edge. From a seated position, turn over by straightening one knee, bending the other, putting your hand underneath your bent knee and pulling yourself over. From here, stand up with your butt in the air, hands in the snow for stability. To get moving, push evenly on both heels, letting your hands drag in the snow. Just like the heel edge, use small movements to keep the side slip smooth and try to keep equal pressure on both heels. Once you're sliding smoothly, stand up, but try to resist the urge to look down the hill as you move along. Just side slip a few meters, then stop to look behind you. If it's clear, keep on slipping. This tutorial has been filmed at Whistler Blackcomb. You're watching Dunk. Once you're comfortable controlling your speed using a side slip, the next step is controlling your direction. Chances are the slope you learn on isn't going to be perfectly straight, and even if it is, there'll probably be someone sitting down in front of you, and you don't want to run into them. Start out doing a heel side slip straight down the hill. When you decide it's a good time to turn to the left, pick something downhill on the left side of the run to look at and point your left hand at. This will give you a goal and get you projecting yourself in that direction. Get the board to start moving that way by pushing down slightly more on your left toes. By pushing more on just the left side, that end of the board will slide faster, pointing it more downhill. Once your board is pointed towards your chosen goal, let the edge take you across the slope. To get back to a straight side slip, even out your weight on both feet to an equal press, while looking straight down the hill and bringing your shoulders back across the fall line. To go to the right, you'll do the same movements, except pushing more on your right toes while you pick something on the right side of the hill to go towards. Once again, pushing evenly on both feet and lining up your shoulders across the fall line to get back to a side slip. This movement is often called a pendulum or falling leaf, because as you slide side to side down the hill, it looks like a leaf falling off a tree or a pendulum in a clock. Once you're comfortable traversing in both directions on your heel side, sit down, roll over, and try it on your toe side. Start in a side slip looking up the hill. Then push a little more on your left heel to go to the left, picking something on the left-hand side to look and point at. Press evenly on both heels while looking back up the hill, aligning your shoulders to get back to a side slip. Then same thing to go to the right, picking a goal on the right side of the slope, and pressing more on your right heel to get that end of the board to point more downhill. Experiment with long traverses, all the way to one side of the hill, then back to the other. Then short ones. See how quickly you can transfer from going right to left and back again. This tutorial has been filmed at Whistler Blackcomb. New movements to the traverse to get you moving faster and prepare you for your first turns. The big thing we're going to add here is a rotation of your upper body. Let's practice this with the board off. Standing in your snowboard stance, turn your head, shoulders, and hips front side, getting your shoulders to at least 90 degrees to where your board would be. Then do the same thing, rotating your upper body backside. Doing a big smooth rotation of your upper body is going to make your first turns much easier, so put the practice in now. Start in a heel side slip. Then press slightly more on your left toes to start a traverse to the left. As you start the traverse, rotate your upper body so your left side is pointing down the hill. Your board will want to align with your shoulders pointing downhill, so be ready for some speed. Stay slightly on your heel edge the whole time so you don't have to worry about changing edges. When you've had enough of the wind whistling through your hair, rotate your upper body back 90 degrees to the fall line, evening out the press on your toe edge to control speed into a side slip. Do the same thing in the opposite direction, pressing more on the right side of your board and rotating your upper body in the other direction to point down the hill. Once both sides start feeling comfortable, try linking them together. Even without side slipping in between, just flowing from one direction to the other. Because you need to be comfortable riding on both edges to turn, now comes the time to roll over and try the same thing on your toe edge. Starting in a side slip, press more on your left heel to go to the left, and rotating your upper body so the left side is pointing down the hill. Once you're satisfied with the amount of speed you've accumulated, rotate your upper body back 90 degrees to the fall line and even out the amount of pressure on your feet to take you back to a side slip. With that accomplished, repeat these steps traversing to the right. Keep going side to side, doing less and less of a side slip until it feels nice and smooth going back and forth. Once your toe and heel edge are both feeling good, you're ready to make your first turns. You're going to use everything we've done up to this point to do your first turns, so I hope you remember it all. Everything has to happen in one smooth movement. Start off with a heel side slip. When you're ready to start the turn, press down on your front foot, just like a traverse. As your board starts to point downhill, rotate your head, shoulders, and hips, just like when we did almost turns. Except this time, keep rotating all the way around until your front hand is pointing to the other side of the slope and your head is looking up the hill. As your board points straight down the hill, you're going to continue pushing down on your front toes all the way until you change from your heel edge being in the snow to your toe edge being in the snow. As your board changes edges, think about getting back into a toe side slip position. Then get ready for the heel side turn. Once again, begin pressing down on your front foot, this time through your heels, as you rotate your head, shoulders, and hips to look down the hill. As your board starts going straight down the fall line, let your edges change by pressing into your heel edge with your front and back foot, bringing you back to a heel side slip position. One common problem when learning how to turn is leaning too far back. You're going to pick up some speed as your board points down the hill, so it's natural to freak out a little bit and lean back. But when you lean back, it actually makes it way harder to turn the board. If anything, you want to have your weight more forward, letting your board pivot around your front foot. You can move your weight forward simply by bending your front knee more than your back. The important thing when you do your first turns is that you commit to the moves. Hesitation will only make things harder. This tutorial was filmed at Whistler Black.
Hi, this is Nev Blackwood from Snowboard Addiction. I'm up at Whistler Blackcomb with my buddy Jordan Decker, and this is a tutorial about how to move around on a snowboard with only one foot in. On a snowboard, you've generally always got both your feet strapped in, but there's certain times where you're gonna have to move around with only one foot in. For example, getting on and off chairlifts. They're not gonna let you do it if you've got both feet strapped in. If you come to a flat area and you wanna get across it, you could go cross-country style and hop your whole way, but you don't wanna get scooch leg. It's gonna be easier if you just take out your back foot. Take out your back foot, stand with your weight on your back leg, and lift your board up. Just feel what that's like. Now take a step and move your board along. Step, slide, step, slide. When that's easy, see if you can get a bit of momentum. Step, slide, and put your foot onto your board to slide with it. This piece of foam is a stomp pad. When you're a beginner snowboarder, it's really useful to put a stomp pad on your board because it gives you something to grip against with your back foot. You can also just lean your back foot against your back binding a little bit. That'll help with the grip. And as you get to be a good snowboarder, you won't need a stomp pad anymore. You may see some people pushing with their back leg over the toe edge of their snowboard. This is possible, but it's a lot more awkward. You may twist your leg. You're going to get better results. It's going to be smoother and easier if you push with your back leg behind your heel edge. One of the biggest problems we see is that a lot of beginner snowboarders are very open with their upper body. When you're open and you try to push, your board's going to want to turn. If you can align your upper body with your lower body and then glide, everything's going to move smoother and easier, and you're going to be able to push more fluidly. Once you've got this feeling of gliding with your front foot strapped in and your back foot sitting on your board, try out putting a bit of weight to your different edges. Bend your knee, push weight into your shin, and a little bit of weight over that toe edge. You should find your board wants to slightly turn in the toe side direction. If you put weight towards the heel edge, the opposite happens. You'll start to turn towards your heel edge direction. This is important because if you get off a chair, you may need to turn one way or the other. This is how you'll do that. If you're picking up too much speed, try putting your back foot half on and half off the board, then digging your heel into the snow. This is one tactic which you can use to slow yourself down when you've got one foot in. A couple of exercises you can try to improve your one footing. Put your weight into your back foot, lift your snowboard off the ground, try jumping onto your board. See if you can do that while moving. Push a couple of times, glide, back foot, jump, and glide again. Try out pushing backwards like this. Then you can try the backwards push, stomp, 180. These exercises are just some fun tactics you can try to improve your one footing. If you get good at your one footing, you're going to have no trouble getting on and off chairlifts and getting around the mountain. This is a basics tutorial about how to get around the mountain with only one foot strapped in. I'm Nev Lapwood from Snowboard Addiction.
Bit of a frustrating endeavor. Here are a few snowboard hacks that'll make snowboarding more enjoyable and will serve you well through your entire snowboard career. There's a ton of gear to keep track of when you go snowboarding, and just making it to the hill with everything can be a tremendous feat. To keep your hands free to carry snowboards, open doors, and sip lattes, put your gloves, goggles, and other such items in the sleeve of your jacket. They'll stay warm and dry there, and your goggles contour perfectly to your arm for that aerodynamic look. When you do get to the hill and put your snowboard down, they have a tendency to slide away. That's what they're made to do. To keep your snowboard in one place, get used to always putting it bindings down. From here, it's not going anywhere. When you're learning to snowboard, you spend a lot of time pulling your foot in and out of your binding. Every time you do this, you track more and more snow onto the base plate, which can eventually ice up, making it tough to do up your bindings properly. Before jamming your foot into an icy binding, break up the ice with the ladder or buckle of your bindings. It'll save your gloves from rips and get you strapped in and riding quicker. Learning to snowboard can be a sweaty endeavor, and you're probably going to feel the urge to remove your goggles to ventilate your face at some point. That's all well and good, but make sure not to put your goggles on the top of your head. All the heat coming off your head will steam up your goggles, rendering them almost useless. Instead, put them in your handy sleeve pocket when they're not in use. If your goggles are already steamed up, or you filled them with snow during a particularly awesome maneuver, pull them off and fill them with tissue paper. But don't rub them, just place it in there and stuff them into your jacket while you go up the chair. At the top, pop the tissue out and put it in your pocket. Chances are you'll be needing it again. This tutorial was filmed at